Hi everyone, I'm Anita Sharma with AnewZ. We're here in Paris, France at the spring meetings for the IAF. I'm very pleased to be joined by Nikol Koleva. She is the Executive Director at the Space Generation Advisory Council based in Vienna. Nikol, thank you so much for joining us here at AnewZ on the sidelines of the IAF Spring Meetings. Tell us a little bit about your organization.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm the Executive Director of the Space Generation Advisory Council, which is a global organization created out of the United Nations back in 1999, out of a meeting called Unispace 3. So SGAC was given the mandate to be the voice of the youth, to be the voice of the young generation, and really represent the youth amongst the entire space sector, including industry, associations, organizations, space academia, so the entire sector. And in reality, we've been doing this for the past 25 years. We have been trying to represent the youth the best of our abilities. And we operate on 5 core pillars, which are events, very, very important, considering we are currently at a fantastic event. Scholarships, again, extremely important to the youth, considering that they get a lot of funding from us through our partners and sponsors to attend events, but also to have other research opportunities, take zero gravity flights, attend space camp, and really other fantastic opportunities. Then we have our more substantive pillar, which is research groups, which we call project groups, policy and advocacy, which is related more to our UN roots, and last but not least, our education and professional development, which is extremely important to us, which provides mentorship and education to our members to take them through their career journeys.
All right, so it sounds like there's a lot going on there. Here at the spring meetings, what's been your contribution to the discussions? I would assume it's heavily focused on the youth initiative, right?
Absolutely. So we work very, very closely with the IAF to make sure that the youth is very well represented. And one of the collaborations and the roles that we have is to represent that voice of the youth, especially in the committees. So SGAC is part of the majority, if not all, of the youth-related committees, specifically on workforce development and other youth-related initiatives. We actually partner very heavily with the IAF to organize the Space Generation Congress, which is right before IAC, and years back we organized that also in Baku, which was a really fantastic experience. So we work quite closely not only on the committees but in general to cross-promote each other and just to make sure that the voice of the youth on different topics is heard. We make sure the topics that are currently relevant within our membership are represented. We are having those topics discussed in panels and different sessions, and we really do that through the committees and through our collaboration with the IAF. So this is what we're doing here, making sure that we fulfill our mission in many ways.
It looks like the message is coming across loud and clear in a lot of the discussions I've had with your colleagues here at the spring meetings. They've talked about the importance of engaging youth, and not just at the university level, but even before that in middle school or high school, to make sure that there's a huge base that's ready to pursue a career in STEM and space.
Yeah, really workforce development doesn't really start at a university level, and this is something we recognize. Unfortunately, SGAC has a limit, so we work mainly with 18 to 35-year-olds because that's what the UN considered youth in many ways. But we do have a number of programs that focus on the ages before that, so working with schools, preschools to really not in the same manner, but just to bring awareness about space, that you don't have to necessarily be coming from a technical background or study science or something very technical related to be in space. So that's kind of the work that we do on a more, let's say, primary level to bring that awareness. And I think later on it's developed in a different way. Particularly, I would say, with students and young professionals and their early careers, it's very different type of work than we do early on, and we very much focus on the later stages. In any case, that is very important to us, so it's a message that we try to spread. I, for one, I don't come from a technical and not like traditional space background. I'm a psychologist, so really try to advocate for that and make sure that SGAC spreads that word that you don't necessarily need a particular background, but we just need everybody to come to space and contribute.
Speaking of everybody, you mentioned Baku. How important is it to reach the youth and to nurture the youth in areas like Azerbaijan, Central Asia, the Caucasus area? How integral is that to your mission?
It's extremely important to us. We actually define the region as Asia Pacific, as according to the UN regions, and this is currently our biggest region in terms of membership. And I, for one, think this grew significantly after the IAC and the SGC there. Usually, we have SGC. We have a quite international delegation, I would say, and in Baku we have a lot of presence, local presence, which was absolutely fantastic. And the even more fantastic thing was that this wasn't just for 1 year. So we continued having this presence. We were having SG Azerbaijan pretty much annually after that, which was an event organized by the National Points of Contacts in Azerbaijan, along with the agency and a couple of other partners, to make sure that the community really stays engaged. And we are trying to work towards a more regional event now, so a regional event for the entire region of Asia Pacific to bring everybody together again to Azerbaijan and make sure we maintain having an engaged community. So it's been extremely valuable to us. And I think in the broader space sector, even in one of my committees right now, we were discussing, I think, abstract submissions, and I think Azerbaijan was one of the top countries with the most submitted abstracts,
right?
Which was really incredible.
Yeah.
It goes to show how effective IAC and SGC were to really fostering that collaboration and that innovation and contribution from the community there.
Yeah, it just seems to be a stunning and an immediate example of fostering and developing talent, especially when you quote unquote get them young.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And for us, it's been very effective. I have to say, we have a really active community there that maintains to have great ideas for new events, for new things they want to do, new partners they want to bring on board. So it's been extremely positive outreach for us in that region, and we hope it can grow from there, and trying to really grow and diversify our presence and our membership to make sure we have other neighboring countries engaged and other partners and stakeholders involved.
Well, are there any obstacles that you're facing, or maybe to rephrase that, what's the key obstacle perhaps that you're facing right now? I'm sure there's a few in terms of achieving your ultimate objective.
I think there's a few that are not so easy to tackle. I think the language barrier is never, language and cultural barrier is not so easy. So the moment you start having a more international community, which is for one, fantastic, but you start having cultural differences, communication differences, differences in the way people work. So sometimes it's harder to kind of have those first steps. But once you have those first steps, it's extremely nice to work with different partners. But I would definitely say breaking into certain communities and breaking into certain regions that haven't worked with SGAC before, it's quite hard. I think especially culturally, the Asia Pacific region is extremely diverse. I mean, it's a huge region, which involves different cultures. There's no set standard, okay, this approach works well for this region. So you're really going on case by case. Okay, for this country, it works that way. For that country, we have to be more patient, have more collaboration before they see, let's say, the return on investment for SGAC. So I would say that's one obstacle, really knowing your partner and making sure that you're working in a manner that's acceptable for that culture, and making sure that that partner also sees the benefit and trying to break into that region. So I think that's been the difficulty, not only culturally, but like I said, language-wise. We wish we had the resources to be, translating all our materials, but unfortunately English is currently the language, the predominant language at SGAC, and I think that sometimes may be limiting, especially to, I would say, younger members who perhaps haven't, let's say, really worked on the English that well and are not ready to work on such a higher level content that some of our conferences have. So I think that's sometimes the difficulty.
It's a bit of a barrier?
A bit of a barrier, yes.
What languages outside of English do you think would help?
I think all of them would help, to be honest. It's very on an individual case-by-case basis. As I mentioned, I'm from Bulgaria, and of course, the youth does speak English there, but not everybody speaks English there. So if you were trying to break into that country and having more participation there, the answer would be Bulgarian. But if you go down that route, then you have to really be thinking about each individual language. So I think perhaps starting with the UN official languages would be something that's helpful, and certainly something that we're looking into, but unfortunately don't have the resources to get there at the moment.
Yeah, language is critical, right? Being able to communicate your ideas, especially with respect to space and all the innovations that come with space. But fascinating conversation, fascinating information all the way around. We wish you the best with your efforts, and thank you so much for sharing your initiatives with us here at AnewZ.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Nikol.